with a lot more time on my hands and spending a lot more time in the office, this is a brand new series that's focused around improving and leveling up your home office. And for me as a content creator, to improve the ergonomics, the usefulness, and the organization of the entire space. In this first video, I'm going to be focusing on what's behind me here, the shelves. Because with bare walls before, I was looking for a way to improve organization, to be able to inject some of my own character, and to be able to have a place where I can put some of my things up on display. And realizing that there wasn't anything that I could buy that fit my requirements, that was the exact size, I decided that I can maybe do this myself. And so this video is dedicated to show you all the step-by-step steps required to make your own wood shelves. It all started here at Lowe's. When I was looking around for home improvement shops, it turns out that Lowe's is one of the few places that offers free wood cutting, which is key because I didn't feel like buying a brand new miter saw or table saw. I first started checking out the wood from the general purpose lumber section of Lowe's. While the prices were fairly cheap, they were really raw with a ton of imperfections that would require a lot more finishing. That's when I found the boards section nearby with more curated woods like pine, oak, maple, and poplar. I couldn't justify the more expensive woods, so ended up settling for the 1x8 by 8 inch knotty pine that in Canada is only $15.99. That really fit this project because it's got a lot more of that personality that I was looking for in the shelves I wanted to make. A heads up though, with this knotty pine, you do have to be careful because not all of them are perfect, so definitely spend time to pick them out. I grabbed 2 boards for the lengths I was thinking of, and I walked them over to the cutting station, which in this particular Lowe's is free for the first 2 cuts and $1 each afterwards. Head over to the stain and sandpaper aisle. The recommended stain for my research is the Minwax gel stain. I grabbed the walnut color. You'll also need a pre-stain, which you'll see a little later, and you'll need a semi-gloss polyurethane spray for the seal. Across the aisle is the sandpaper, and for wood like pine, you'll really just need a 120 and 220 grit. Grab a foam brush if you don't have one at home, and that's it. So we are in my makeshift workstation in the garage and have everything set up for what I need for this job, I think. So going from this side, I'm going to show you everything that I brought and put on this table for this project. Tape measure, might need that later. Got my 2 stands, or I have 4 actually, but we'll need those a little bit later on. In front here, we have the Minwax preconditioner for the wood, the actual gel stain, the polyurethane coating that'll go on top, and then, brush, rag, key to open it all. And then over here, got a mask because we'll be doing sanding later on. A finishing sander. This is not the circular sander. This is a finishing one. It kind of vibrates really quickly and uses sheets of sandpaper. So I actually have a 120 grit to start and 220 to finish it off. Scissors to cut them up. And lastly, some gardening tools and a hammer to add some weathering to the wood. As you saw earlier, I went to Lowe's to pick up some of this wood, and I already have 2 pre-cut. This one is 44.5 inches, and this is 73 inches. These are all white, knotty pine that we'll be using today. So are you ready? Let's give it a go. Step 1 is the most fun. So what we're gonna do with these 2 pieces of wood for the shelving is give it that real weathered look, as if this was wood that we reclaimed from other furniture, just to make it feel a little bit more rustic. And the way you do that is you get some tools and you smash away. And here's where you just, do whatever you want. I don't know if this is what you're supposed to do. Oh, smash! Okay, now it's weathered. Step 2 is all about sanding, and so we're going to be doing 2 passes of sandpaper on these shelves. I got my mask, garage doors up for some ventilation, and we have the finishing sander. What I did was I just put on a 120 grit, medium grit sandpaper, which is for the first pass, and then we're gonna be doing a second pass with the 220 grit, which is a fine grit to finish it off. All right. right, that actually looks pretty good. It's nice and smooth. I hit the corners a little bit. Pretty much eyeballed it. Try to make sure that I got an even sand all the way through. Rounded the edges a little bit. All right, let's keep going. We got one down. It's time to work on the second one. Okay, first pass done. Still got another second pass to do. Round 2. So step 3 is all about the pre-stain, but we've kind of made a mess with our workstation. There is dust everywhere, and for the stain to go on really nice and cleanly without blotchiness, we gotta make sure we clean our area up. So I just have a towel over here with a little bit of warm water. I'm just gonna wipe everything down. Make sure we're working with a clean surface. After that, we wanna bring in the wood as well and wipe it down with a damp cloth to get rid of all that dust. Let's keep that dust down. Now that everything's dry, you can apply the pre-stain. And what the pre-stain is meant for is basically to treat the wood and make sure that the stain is applied without any blotchiness. So to put it on, it's actually really easy. You take a foam brush, dip it in, make sure it's well mixed, and do a single coat on your shelves here. Once that's done, let it penetrate for about 5 minutes, then take a lint-free cloth, get rid of any excess, and then hand sand it with 220 grit, a fine grit, just to clean it up, and you're good to go. Make sure it's nice and even, that you're not missing any corners. Okay, so I lied. You actually have to wait about 30 minutes for the pre-stain to dry. Now that it is dry, I'm gonna hit it with sandpaper. Really light. Now that the wood is conditioned and ready to go, we are now ready for staining. And what we have today is a Minwax gel stain in walnut color. What they've said about the gel stain is that it applies on very evenly. It doesn't drip as well, so I thought I'd give it a go. Now to apply it, all we need to do is use a rag. This is gonna be a really simple application, but it will get messy, so I'm gonna put on these gloves. So we're gonna start off with the shorter shelf, and then we'll move on to the bigger one. All right, hopefully this walnut stain goes on as easy as they say it does. Whoa, it is really like a gel. Let's give it a nice coat. Okay, not what I expected. So after you've placed your first coat, you wait about 3 minutes, and at this point, I've kind of gone through it. 3 minutes have passed. I now take another clean rag and basically get rid of the gel stain off of this. So I'm just gonna give it one pass to clean it up. All right, first one is done. For those that are wondering about the walnut color, this is the white pine in front here, and this is the walnut once stained on with the gel stain. Quite a difference there. We can now move on to the longer and second. Whew. Nice and weathered. Look at that. Sweet as. Well, it's been about 12 hours and I've allowed the wood to dry, but as I was thinking about this overnight, I actually want a little bit of a darker color. While I like the look of it so far, the walnut has set in, but it's a little bit too light. I still notice some of the lighter pine colors, the white pine coming through. When you compare it with the original pine, you can see why it's lighter, because it's so bright. So what I'm going to do right now, because 12 hours have lapsed, I can now do a second coat of the gel stain. Another thing that I didn't do last time was that I noticed that with the gel stain, it came kind of like as this pudding texture. It actually should be a much more creamy texture, and I forgot to mix it. So I got some wooden chopsticks here, and I'm gonna actually mix it up. And after that, we're gonna do a coat of the gel stain on the 2 pieces and then wipe it off 3 minutes later. Gloves back on. So this second coat is actually supposedly going to give it even darker color, and it's something that's mentioned by Minwax. This is just gonna take me longer to do, of course, because I'm gonna have to wait 24 hours for me to be able to apply the next step. Well, a full 24 hours has elapsed and we're back in the garage now to do step 5, which is to apply a nice semi-gloss coating to our shelves here. And we're going to be doing that by using the Minwax fast drying polyurethane in aerosol format. Now we're using aerosol because it's a lot easier to apply, control, and to do it drip free. And what's recommended is to actually do 3 separate coatings to clean wood like this that hasn't been coated before, with some light sanding in between. We're going to do this all in one shot, and then we're going to allow it to dry for another 24 hours. Okay, light sanding. It's kind of a light glide pass. Coat number 2. Okay, final coat. Woo! With the wood all stained, the harder part is actually to mount the whole thing on the wall. To do this, you'll need a couple of basic tools that you can see here. Note that the brackets for the shelves I picked up on Amazon, and I'll drop a link to that in the description. First, you'll need to figure out if there are any studs on your wall that you can take advantage of. This will help reduce the number of screw anchors that you'll need. You'll then need to figure out how you want to place the shelves and where the brackets are going to go in relation to the edges. Having painter's tape will definitely help you visualize it. Then think about the distances between shelves. Placement of things like frames are going to matter. Think about how high your monitor and webcam is going to be and the objects that'll go on the shelf. We use the binder to help figure that out. Honestly though, it was a lot of eyeballing. Once you're ready to commit, it's time to start drilling holes into the wall to get the brackets onto the wall. Having a level is going to be pretty important here to make sure everything is straight, and we also found that the iPhone's built-in level was useful to double check. Work your way from one bracket to the next. The next part is figuring out how to mount the shelf to the bracket itself. You do this by marking the right points with a pencil, then using something like a nail, create a starter hole and tap it further with the screw before putting the board on the bracket and securing everything together. Rinse and repeat for the second shelf. Celebrate with high fives, then take a step back and admire your craftsmanship. It's incredible to know that something that looks like designer shelves can be made by yourself. If you're curious about the price, I have all those details broken down again in the description, so make sure you read it. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope all those steps showed you just how easy it is to create your own wooden shelves. Even for somebody like me with not a whole lot of tools or skills, I was able to make it happen and very happy with the results. In the next video, I'm going to be going into everything else in the space. I've made a whole lot of improvements to the table, to the monitor, all those things. So keep watching. This is Will from Going Awesome Places.